Man, I almost wore that shirt that's in the intro there. I'm so glad I chose a different shirt. This is fun. I'm a huge film lover, television show lover. Growing up watching Tim Busfield in some of my favorite movies, and he has graciously honored us with his presence tonight. It is 10 p.m. East Coast time where he is at. So, Tim, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
That's awesome. Hey, we're happy to have you. Brian is manning the controls backstage for us. I am not sure if we are live right now. There we are. With pictures back. We're good. We're gonna work out all the kinks. We're gonna get this going. Thanks again. So your credits. I mean, we're gonna talk about a lot tonight. But the first thing that jumped out to me is over 650 professional credits. Did you invent IMDb? Because I feel like you should have been the inventor.
Yeah, I mean, it's longevity is the key. If you can stay in the game as long as you can, I wanted to be a baseball player. I wanted a good card, so I
Yeah.
spread myself out. A lot of those are going to be credits. They aren't 650 different projects I've produced and directed and acted in things. So a
Yeah.
lot of them are tripled up or doubled up, but there's a lot in there, and there's some theater credits in there.
Yeah, according to my notes here, you've got your Emmy award-winning role in 30 something. Obviously, everybody talks about that. West Wing, Studio 60. You've directed 140 plus TV shows, according to this thing that I found on you, 2 films, and over 25 plays. So I think it's safe to say you love entertainment.
It's just something, all the way back to when I was a little kid. It's just something that we did. My brother Buck got a camera, and I remember one time he was shooting me, and I acted like I was crying, and he thought, "Oh, you're just a big baby." I said, "No, I was acting," and he goes, "You were not acting," and I go, "No, I was acting," and he didn't buy it, and that's when I knew I could act a
That's
little
it.
bit.
You,
But we grew up. My dad taught theater. My sister was an actor. There's the NEA put out some data that said, if you don't see the people that go to theater now experience theater by the time they were out of elementary school in the 70% range. And we grew up with it. So it's what I knew and what I loved. And my dad wrote a book called The Playwright's Art. My dad wrote a book called Children's Theater. He collaborated. And those are just two things that I grew up, absorbing from him and Buck and my sister Terry, who was probably the best actor in the family.
wow, that's high praise. So it's like you read my notes before, and my first question was actually about your father. So you just spoke about that, but why do you think for you the entertainment bug stuck, and why have you carried it through, your whole life now?
Well, I think a lot of it, it was I had a knack for it, I mean, like an athlete, if you look, I knew at 6, it's what I wanted to do. I came home from seeing Burt Lancaster in a movie, and I kind of announced at the table, I'm going to be a movie star. When I thought movie star was actor, I didn't know there was such a thing as an actor. I just knew James Bond and things like that. And as I grew up, I realized that I had certain skills that an athlete might have that you might notice, as a little leaguer, and then junior high and high school. And, as I moved up through the ranks, it's just something I knew how to do. Like singers can sing
Yeah.
and people have certain things. I had a certain skill set, which allowed me, and then I had great teachers,
Hmm.
so I was able to make breakthroughs. I had some talent that was raw, but in college I had a great teacher, and because I kind of wanted to play baseball, I took very much an athlete's mentality towards the whole thing, and
Yeah.
I knew that to be a baseball player, I'd have to swing a bat till my hands bled. To be able to catch up to a 90 or 100-mile-an-hour fastball. And I knew as an actor, if I was going to compete and be able to work with some of my favorite actors, that I was really going to have to work hard at it.
Yeah.
And when I was at East Tennessee State University, my brother Buck was playing saxophone and learning it from a guy named Jerry Coker at University of Tennessee. And
Mhm.
he was playing 8 hours a day, and we were living together, and I realized, hey, I better be learning monologues. And I
Yeah.
went to this teacher and I said, teach me. And Give me a one-on-one class. I want no bad habits. I don't have a process. All my abilities raw. And he took me through the Stanislavski method, and it was a great experience for me. And then I went to Actors Theater of Louisville as an apprentice and learned a little bit. And then I joined the resident company. And when I joined the resident company at Actors Theater of Louisville, I was across from Chris Cooper and Kathy Bates. I was with Academy Award winners. We were the best regional theater in America. So it was like getting drafted to a World Series team. And from there, critics were so hot for the festival, the New Play Festival in the early 80s, that I got an agent and I got movies, and I got all that out of Kentucky. So
it's amazing.
Minor leagues, high school, college, minor leagues, major leagues, just like baseball.
You touched on a couple of things that I find to be very important in life. I'm a father of 5. So, so you talk about having a good father. I think the fact that you had a good father and an excellent mentor, would you agree, were kind of catalysts for you? You kind of already said it, but I think anybody in life who has a good father, good mentor, they're going to succeed at what they go after because they have that person in their corner.
You know, I will agree a little bit. I mean, my dad could have been a little bit better of a dad. He did tell me I didn't have the talent to be an actor, that Buck had the talent. I mean, I absorbed from him. But I also think when you look at the skill set for actors, and this is, I've learned a lot as a producer and as a director, particularly from people complaining about actors. Now, and I'm an executive producer, I'm in the room with the technical people, the ADs and the designers, and they like to rag on the actors and the emotional instability of the actors. And I will end up ultimately, and I'm their boss often now as an executive producer. I'll say, I'm sitting right here. Do you not see this? I'm an actor.
Right.
And then I'll say to them, ultimately, I'll say, no, hang on. I want to try to give a perspective here. All those qualities that you're complaining about, the ADD, the needing attention, the always competing to be who's funnier, the narcissism and how they look, those are the attributes of a great actor. So a dysfunctional family, when you see these kids, and I've spent a lot of time in education. A few years ago, I was in the schools talking to principals and superintendents, and I was saying, do you have kids that are restless and not focused and over emotional and trying to get attention and acting out? And they go, yeah, what do you do with them? And I said, they're actors.
Yeah.
Those are the artists that share that crap.
Yeah.
So I think you'll probably find that with most successful, really successful actors, there's a bit of damage. And I certainly grew up with divorced parents, and my dad chose the other family more than the 3 of us. And yet I tried to be like him. I think we try to serve. So
sure.
I don't necessarily look at dysfunction in a childhood and associate it with lack of success in our business. I think it's more the contrary. I think the more damaged, at least relatable damage, we don't play. Nobody goes to the movies to see a normally balanced, healthy person.
Sure.
We just do them no good. They want to see them at their worst. So, it's important we have that stuff.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. That was a great analogy. And I will agree with you in such that September 3rd, it's the second film I directed. It's coming into theaters first on September 3rd. And then the holiday season, the first film I directed will be in theaters. There was a scene in the first film I directed with actor Robert Lasardo, who's brilliant in Nip Tuck and all these other shows that you've seen him in.
Great actor.
We had a very emotional scene. And I'm just going to tell this story. He laughs now, but we shot this scene on night 3. Out of every scene that could have gone wrong, I come back to day 4, and my DP comes up to me and he says, the footage is unusable. Something happened with the lens and the camera. Can't use it. So I go to Robert, who is just, he's muscular. He's tattooed. I'm a new time director. I go to Robert, I have to tell you this bad news. We don't have your scene from last night. He wasn't irate, but he was upset. He says, well, I'm not doing it again. I said, Robert, we have to. That seems so important. He's like, I gave it my all last night. I said, what can we do to get you there again? And he said, you know what? I had a really, really difficult childhood, and there's a song from my childhood that gets me there. He goes, if you don't mind me putting an earpiece in my ear, and as the director, you sit next to me out of frame, play that song. Don't tell me when you're going to play it. Just play it at a random time. I'll get there. And sure enough, I yell action. I get about 18 seconds into it. I hit play, and Niagara Falls from his childhood. It was beautiful.
Yeah, you get into there's times, when you're in an emotional scene. There's a Robert Duvall, I think it was Tender Mercies, maybe there was a scene where he said, I'm not looping this. So make sure you get this right. I'm doing it once. If I have to do it twice, I don't really want to. And I remember on 30 something, there was a scene, it was a very emotional episode. And there was a scene, and I said to Ken Olin, who was directing, Kenny, I really don't want to do this too many times. And he had to come back and say, we got to go again. You got to go again. Now, as a director, I've had so many incidences like those where things have gone wrong, or there was a hair in the gate, or something was messed up, and you got to go back and reshoot it. And it's all part of the game. I mean, that to be 63 and where I'm at in my life, I've made every mistake again, over and over again. And I've experienced disasters so much that I know there's always a way out. You handled it perfectly. Whatever helps the actor. So often young directors, they're either intimidated by the actor, or they create a distance from the actor, or if they come up from being an AD, often they're bitter at the actors because actors beat them up on their way up as second AD. So you can feel that, and anything which creates that collaboration, anything that, you're the parent as a director, you're the leader. It's not you're there to make sure everybody's their best. That's what it is. It's not, I have my vision and this shot has to be that way. And everything has to be that. You'll go crazy unless you're Scorsese. But even Spielberg works with the people around him. He hires great people around him. Scorsese's a little nuts, but then again, Scorsese's he gets in his own way sometimes. He will take you out of the story for a cool shot. Not that I could ever be better than him in any way, but he's a master and one of the probably top 10 all time. But he is one of those guys. I think Fincher, the actors could be pieces of wood with a David Fincher movie. They fit right in. I prefer the more collaborative, because I'm an actor. I'm interested in performance. And especially because I do a lot of weaker TV. When you're looking at stuff and you got actors going, this is just crap. I've done so much TV. I've done some good and I've done a lot of bad. So you got to help that actor be good. With rough writing, and that's a difficult thing. You did just the right thing.
Well, thank you for saying that. The week before we started shooting, Doug Hutchison, who played Percy in The Green Mile, is also in my film, and the producer of the film manages Doug. And so I called Doug. I said, "Look, this is my first film, Doug. You've been in some great films. Tell me a little bit about directing. I think I'm going to be good at it because of what I've done in my history, blah, blah, blah." He said, "There's two kinds of directors. There's an actor's director that gets in there with the actors, and I'm a former actor." And he said, "There's an actor, which you just described." Then he said, "There's your Christopher Nolans that love the gadgets and the lenses and the widgets." And I said, "Well, that's it. I'm going to be friends of actors on set, and I'm going to be their buddy, and we're going to have a great time." And that's what I did. And I think that's why both my films, there was a good camaraderie on set, because I'm a people person and oriented myself with the actors.
You know what? Those are my guys. Those are the guys that I admire the most. Kazan, Howard Hawks, the guys that could direct a play and direct a movie and love actors and are there for performance. I think Woody Allen is a very underrated, of course, you can't call him underrated. He's won the Oscar and he's probably one of the greats of all time, but his focus is actors and not getting in the way, not letting the visual get in the way. I feel a little cold distance sometimes in Chris Nolan movies, and I felt that when I had dinner with him. But
let's talk about that later.
It's just that guy, I think we were at one of the Golden Globes or whatever. We were at the same table, and I didn't sense he was nervous he was going to lose or something, but and he did. But that's just not my style. From the theater, I learned in the theater where, you have 3 weeks. You coax a performance in the theater.
Yeah.
You don't mandate it. You don't come out day one in the theater and say, you go here and say it like that.
Yeah.
And if you've never experienced that and had that with actors in a theater, often you can wait. An actor can struggle for 3 weeks of rehearsal, and then just before you open, you can give them that note,
Yes.
which turns the performance. And when you realize you have that kind of patience in the theater, and then you go to direct a movie, you don't lose that. You know that let them get take 1, take 2 out. Don't go in there too early.
Yeah.
Let them get their homework out of the way. Actors do homework. You
Yes.
think they're just out partying and snorting cocaine and hanging with, and being wild. And that's not it. There's you got to count on the fear that an actor knows they're going in front of a great deal of people, and showing them their work, and they want to be good. And so they bring a certain nervousness, and often they over rehearse or plan too much in their head in their hotel room. In a play, you can gauge that. You can watch what they're doing, and you can back them up and say, not yet, not yet.
Yeah.
But when you have an actor and maybe a day player, and you cast them and you haven't seen them in a few weeks since you cast them, and they show up and they got this performance they're gonna put out there, and you see it, and your first reaction is that's all wrong. The big mistake a lot of directors do is they hop out of their chair at the end of that first take and they say that's all wrong. And if there's a writer over your back and the writer sees it's wrong, the writer goes, it's all wrong.
Yeah.
And they panic. And I tend to say, okay, relax.
Yeah.
Just let them go again right away. And they're like, you're not going to tell them to fix it. And I'm going to say, no, let them get it out. Let them do it a couple of times. Then what happens is you go into them with a note and they're wide open because they've had a chance to show you their work. If you cut into the actor before they have a chance to show you their homework, they're like anybody else who built something for you that you break apart and say, that's all wrong.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I didn't even show you how the door flips open, or I didn't even show you how the thing kind of is really, or the paint underneath. I didn't get to show you all I did. So they don't have the confidence that to let go of self-consciousness because you've made them more self-conscious. So for me, I find it's best. And, again, you learn Glenn Close, directing Glenn Close on a TV show. On a movie, directing Glenn Close, I'm sure take 1, take 2, you're not going to get any better. She's just there and perfect. But on a lawyer show, which has a lot of gobbledygook to it, and the fifth, the deposition on the fifth was riddled with circumstantial evidence from, and you're like, I don't know what I'm talking about. And Glenn on damages, you would have to give her, it wasn't until take 4 that she went and got it, unless it was a non-procedural thing. And she's the most fun to play with. But you don't want to go in after take 1 and give her a note, because she'll just snap at you and say it's too early. I haven't even got to where I'm okay with what I did. But once the actor's okay, once they do a take, and you can see in the monitor, they kind of look up like, what are we doing now? Is that okay? And when an actor has that look like, is that okay? And you say cut, that means that they're wide open. If they're kicking their head, it's like you can talk to them, but you're much better off being a bit patient, letting them have take 1 or take 2. I did learn that from working with good people.
Absolutely. Tom Sizemore, my first ever thing that I did with a real actor, he just came up to me right before we started the first scene. He goes, Ricky, don't you dare yell cut too soon. And that was it. I was like, okay, I got it. I will not yell cut too soon. I will let this go, even if it's flubbed, and off we went. So, Tim, to transition from adult actors to child actors, one of the things that really excites me about what you do is you invest your time, and as does your wife, into child actors. And right now, during the pandemic, you guys came up with a rather cool idea to do these virtual acting classes for youth that are, I think, not just in your neighborhood, but across the country, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, not so much across the look. I would love for it to be across the country. It would be more for inspiration.
Okay.
And Melissa isn't as involved. Right now with this, she's got a book she's writing,
Okay.
that Simon and Schuster came to her for, and she's got another sold a pilot, and she will help out with my teaching. I always recruit her to come in,
Sure.
but we during the pandemic, a lot of these young actors, they're dormant. They aren't getting a chance to work out. They're not getting a chance to play. They're not getting a chance to get that out. And there's a bit of psychological, those kids that are in plays that find their way into dance and music and theater, those are performing arts.
Yeah.
And they need to get that stuff out. And so I have gone to my local school district up here, and I said, hey, I will be happy to work with your guys. And I gave them a 11-week curriculum that ends in a Zuvie, that basically ends in we're making a Zuvie.
Yes.
You will perform. We're going to start bridging theater and film right now.
Yeah.
You're going to do this here. We're going to do monologues, and we're going to focus on the audition process. And in that you'll perform, but I want to work on how to get work, how to be better at auditioning, since you don't have the chance to do plays. Yeah. And I'm going to coach you, because you're going to be in shots like we're in now,
yeah,
on what might be a better performance if being recorded this close versus 100 feet away. So I will be working on those attributes with them, if I can get at and make them attributes, and any of the sort of bad habits. And it's just coaching, really. So I have an 11-week curriculum that was approved by the superintendent at the Eldred Unified School District. And we'll go Monday night for an hour, probably, with the technical end, all the designers, and how are we going to make it look? What kind of backdrops can we offer these kids? What are they going to wear when we do the final scenes? And talk to them and introduce them to directors of photography and other assistant directors and costume designers, and bring them in as guests. And then on the weekend after school, I'll probably spend 2.5 hours with, 30 or 40 kids, going over scenes and monologues and doing it, not lecturing, not yammering about it like I'm doing right now, but actually, let's see that monologue. Let's do it again, a little slower. Take your time. Yeah. What's the key moment in the scene? How do you frame that moment? How do you connect the basic, and the basic fundamentals? And I give these to Glenn Close. If I'm walking away from a scene with Glenn Close and Ted Danson, maybe, and they're looking at me, or I'm working with really good actors, even Kiefer, anybody I work with, this is us. The last thing I find myself saying as I leave the room is basic fundamentals, listen, react, listen, react, and put that in the actor's head as I'm walking away. Not say the line like this: where have you been? Where have you been? I never give a line reading. So just the kids, all that fear and all that anxiety, just put that aside for a minute and listen. Yeah. Just listen.
Awesome.
And see what happens.
And how is that going virtually? I would imagine it would, I'm coming from an acting background. It is much easier probably in person to take that direction from someone, but how is it going digitally with you doing this with children who, I have 5 kids, again, I'll say it 1,000 times, have a tendency to just be squirrely. How's everything going with that?
Well, I haven't done, I start on the 19th, I think.
Okay.
I'm probably going to start here, but I have taught classes online. I have done every imaginable way, and I do keep doing it and get invited to do it. And I did work with a bunch of really good teen actors, some pros, that were working out of a class out of Westport Country Playhouse, which was Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward's theater. And I had performed up there, and I was invited to work with them, and I found it great. And I think the key is when you're talking like this, all of them are present. You have all of your grid up with everybody on it.
Yes.
But when you look at a performance, you make everybody disappear. Huh. So the actor doing a monologue, or if they're doing a scene with the instructor, there's only 2 people up. Okay. And in doing that, you eliminate anybody that the kids aren't looking at squirreliness. They're not able to see what the reactions are. And then when they come back, I find the kids listen. The kids,
Yeah.
they all know they're going to perform. So it's scary acting, right? You know
Sure.
that.
Absolutely.
And they're thinking ahead. They're not just like, I got to go do this. They're usually a bit petrified. So
Yes.
they're going to pay attention.
Well, it's really really cool that you're doing this. I think it's really needed. There's a need for creative outlets in children right now, and it's awesome. There's a little bit of feedback. Sorry, Tim, if it sounds like I'm pausing, but the feedback's gone. So moving from that, the other cool thing that you're doing right now is your podcast with your wife. And in my head, it's called Gilbert, Busfield, and Busfield Esquire because you sound like a law firm, but it's just called Gilbert and Busfield. And talk about that a little bit. You guys have a lot of fun on there. You do a lot of that kind of smiling and laughing.
We have a great time. We have a great chemistry, and really when we're working is the only time she likes me. So if I could keep her in front of the camera working with me or acting with me, that's it. That's when she is the most interested in things I have to say when the camera's on. So if I could keep her in front of the camera, I'd really feel like she loves me all the time.
Yeah.
We really, during the pandemic, I said, we got to offer something up, we got to offer something. We gotta throw it out there and let everybody know that we're all on the same page and make them smile if we can make them smile. And we just sort of started jamming into it. And this week we did something brand new, which is up now on our Facebook that we put out there. Is we had her do the commentary on the pilot of Little House on the Prairie. I'm sure it's totally illegal.
Way.
I'm sure it's completely illegal. And Josh Kearns, our producer, we got a producer in Washington because I'm technically deficient. And I sat with her, and she'd never done a commentary, and I've done commentary on a lot of the movies and TV shows I've done. And I said, the sound is off, and we watch. And you bring us memories. We don't have this. You won't be able to hear what it is you're saying. And she was a little thrown by it. And then Josh we'll send it to Josh, and he will put the audio and the picture over that, which again, I'm sure is completely illegal, but he narrates she does commentary on the first two episodes. I mean, the first pilot. And I think it turned out kind of cool. Great for them to see what Melissa was experiencing at that time.
That is really cool. So speaking of your wife, I'm going to call you out on something right now. Your IMDb bio says it's written by Anonymous, but I don't think that's true because, I've been married 20 years. The last line of your bio says he lives with his wife, television icon, and fantastic cook, Melissa Gilbert. There is no way an anonymous person wrote fantastic cook. So are you going to fess up right now that you wrote that?
Everybody writes their own IMDb.
Okay.
Everybody says, I need a bio.
We got
People will say, I cannot tell you how many. You don't go on a talk show without them saying, I need a bio.
Yeah.
So you write a bio and you throw it up, and you can't put your own name on it.
Right.
Because that looks really stupid. So thanks for, I really appreciate that, Ricky, call me out. On that. No actor wants to cop to the fact that they're the anonymous person who wrote their bio.
I wrote mine. I think once you get to a certain level, you just do that because no one else is going to capture you the way you are.
You take a bio, there's so many bios for, again, so many interviews, so many, they want something, and you just boop. I just took it and plunked my bio up there, and it's off. Already, there's got to be, I think it's more like 700 credits. That's been up there for a while.
There you go. So. All right, Tim, speaking of wives, you owe mine an apology. So my wife, Nikki, you will never meet a bigger fan of Christmas in your entire life. The woman just loves Christmas. You will also never meet a bigger opponent of Christmas pre-Thanksgiving and post-Christmas. So last night I'm watching Guest Artist, and it's a Christmas film, and I turned up the sound really loud just so she would hear all the Christmas songs. And I get a text. She's in the back room. She goes, "What are you watching in August?" And I'm like, I have to watch this movie. So you have to apologize to my wife, Nikki. You have to.
I'm so sorry, Nikki. Look, we only had a week. Jeff was only available during the week of Christmas. I couldn't get the Christmas trees out of the set decoration, so it became a Christmas movie. That was the only time we had. We had 1 week to shoot it, at Christmas in
Yeah.
Michigan. It's not Ricky's fault. Don't
Thank
blame
you.
him. It's he was doing his homework,
Yep.
and there's nothing commercial about it. But he did tell me before we rolled that he did buy your Christmas present.
I did. I absolutely did. So let's talk about guest artists. What a really cool movie. I mean, so I think this is going to be a new genre, by the way, filming a 1 or 2 man play into a movie. And I was blown away by not only Jeff Daniels, but Thomas Macias, I hope I'm saying his last name right, who I think that was his first role. It said introducing, and I looked at his IMDb. I think he has an industrial video. Just, Tim, talk about that experience for you. But then I also want to know, Thomas working with you, you're a seasoned vet. You've been in so many things. And then Jeff Daniels, was he intimidated at all? Was he just ready to go? I want to hear all about it.
Well, first of all, Jeff and Melissa and I created a company back in maybe 2014, 15. Jeff and I were friends. We were in the Broadway Show League together playing softball for Circle Rep. We were both company members at Circle Repertory Company. And we were from Michigan. We were raised about 45 miles apart. Now, we didn't know each other until we got out on the softball field, really. And he was the first baseman and I was the shortstop. And we became buddies. And before terms of endearment, before any of that, we were in our early 20s and mid 20s, early 20s. Jeff's a couple of years older than me, and we stayed close. And we produced a lot of his plays in Sacramento at the B Street Theater. He's a great writer. And Jeff came up and said, I want to do guest artist and let's put our kids in and get out there. And I said, well, there's the $100,000 budget. There's the $200,000 budget and there's the $300,000. He said, let's do the 100. And I said, no way. Yeah. I can't do 100,000 with you. We'll do the 300. So we went and I believe when you're going to go, look, you can go no money.
Yep.
No money on a movie, but you got to be able to make the talent partners like a band. Yep. If you do that and you get rid of your ego and the hierarchy and know that you're probably not going to make any money anyway, you just make you make producers that can bring something to the table, whether it's money or cameras. Michael Lohman is a DP I've worked with a lot and love. And he said, I'll give you all the equipment. And I gave him a producer credit. So we had really good cameras. And my son is a professional DP. And he was just starting out as a DP. So we had a week. I love
how it was shot, by the way. Keep going, but it was great.
We had a week. I mean, we had to shoot. Look, so we cast it in probably August. We decided in June to make it. Jeff wrote the screenplay off his play. And then I gave some notes on that. And then he did some tweaks and we said, let's get down to casting. So we cast out of his theater circle. Purple Rose, and he liked Thomas. And I was not right away thinking that Thomas wasn't the direction I was seeing. I was seeing, maybe a young Griffin Dunn, but good, looking at somebody, a leading man type. I didn't, that's what I sort of saw in my head. And he said, I think I got the guy. And so I said, okay. And we went and read, and he was a stage manager at the theater, but he was that guy. And Jeff knew, by the way Thomas talked and everything, that the music in Thomas and his boyishness was what Jeff saw in that character. And we cast him. We even went past. I said, not yet. We're going to do some casting in New York. And Jeff and I both had places in New York, and we looked at a few people in New York. And I said, no, it's Thomas. Let's go with Thomas. And Jeff would have gone in any direction I wanted to.
Wow.
He said, it's your movie. He was not there to say, he knows that that's the way you do movies, that it's got to be the director's movie, because I have so much work editing, shooting, casting, lighting. There's so much that, you don't want to really divide that out on a movie. It's got to have a little bit of a singular vision to it, not like a TV show where all that stuff might be done before you get there.
Right.
So we cast Thomas in August. We weren't going to shoot until December. I just gave him a few notes, and then I knew he would run it with Jeff. And I asked Jeff, I said, just run it and don't let him fall into any patterns. Don't let him say the line the same way twice.
Okay.
Don't, actors will plant tapes.
Mm-hmm.
They say it, it goes here. And if they say, where have you been? Where have you been? Where have you been? And you try to get them to go, well, I don't know where you been.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't know, I can't do it.
Yeah.
All I know how to do is go, where have you been? So it's really important that if I was going to be away from him for that part of the process, that he be able to have flexibility. And I said, rehearse it flat. Just rehearse it flat, because on the day it's going to come up and out. You won't be able to do flat when you're across from Jeff and the slate goes and the crew is there. You're going to want to perform it. But right now it won't serve anybody. And then throughout the shooting, it was mostly those choices. When I saw a choice, when I could see him, and the camera doesn't like it. The camera doesn't like seeing rehearsed moments, and then we don't buy it.
It's inauthentic.
See it. It's not authentic. And because the camera's right here, you can see it. So you got to hide that hardware. You got to put that stuff away. And when I would see Thomas want to act, that's when I would go, okay, great. Let's go again. Terrific, everybody. Thomas, no acting, and get your hands in your pockets. I'm going to tape your hands, I said, to your body, because I won't be able to edit it if your hand's here on one side and then your other hand's up on the other side. When you're doing film and you go like that, you can't just go like this and go like that and go like this, and then not do it the same way every time, or the camera won't be able to do it. So you tend to see movie actors like Jeff, they just don't blink, don't move.
Yeah.
They know not to do too many deliberate moves that'll create matching problems. And Jack Nicholson had said in an article, maybe in Rolling Stone or something, a lot of actors would match themselves right out of a performance. They mismatch themselves right out of a performance just by not being conscious of doing too much. So Thomas was there, and really with Thomas, you're playing music with Jeff Daniels, who's one of our best actors in the world.
Absolutely. Just
listen and connect with him. Connect and talk to him. I don't need to hear you. Don't project. We're not in a play. I've got hundreds of thousands of dollars of sound equipment coming down on you and catching you. Your mic here on your chest. Your mic, somebody's following you over the top. So just talk as loud as you would talk if you were talking to that person. And I found with even the great actors, volume down opens up a lot more performance. So bringing his volume down and keeping his hands down and encouragement, and he was great. As far as the shooting of it, what was great is I showed them the blocking, all their blocking in the train station in about an hour.
Wow.
Because I'd done my homework, and I said, okay, you're going to enter in, come over. I said, you guys just sit in the pews. And we were still decorating. I'm the costume designer on the movie. Okay. My wife did the sets.
You're filmmaking.
Well, when you're talking about the new way to do it, we didn't realize, but we were doing pandemic filmmaking.
Yeah.
As few people as possible, and wear as many hats as you can to just be effective. And it really, in today's world, it really works. And remind me to talk about how it works with lighting. But I showed them all the blocking. And then they said, as we went through it, and then I got them up on their feet and we went through the blocking, and I wasn't looking for performance. And this was probably a week, 10 days before we started shooting. You want to give the actors a sense of the blocking so they can memorize their lines and know where they are. Mm-hmm. It's so much easier to memorize your lines if they're attached to blocking. This is the part where I'm in the bathroom. This is the part when I'm at the at the sofa. This is the part when I go into the kitchen.
Yeah.
You can break it down with blocking. And so then I just let them go. I showed them the blocking. We roughed it in and I said, get out.
Wow.
I didn't make them show me performance. I didn't want to see performance yet.
Yep.
The cameras weren't rolling. Why would I want performance before the camera's rolling? You don't want that.
Yeah.
Inexperienced directors will want to see it. They'll want to do all that. But if the camera's not rolling and you get what you wanted, and then when the camera is rolling, you don't get what you wanted, trust me, you'll regret that you rehearsed performance. Now you can rehearse, but we just did blocking.
Great.
And then we showed it to the whole crew the day before. We brought the crew in and we all lined up in the station and we showed everybody in the crew everything in the station.
Yeah.
The guys ran it, the whole thing. And Willie was staying at my place. He was living in New York. And, you know, we laid track and with that style, because of the time, we really, normally if you were to do a feature film, if I was to do a feature other than like how I did it, every shot would be done in homework. I mean, I would know what shots I want and lenses and where we're going to go and still have the freedom to move. But here we really had to shoot north, south, east, west. We'd light for this direction and we did everything in the train station. We did a 43-minute take. 43 minutes we rolled without stopping. The poor boom guys. But we brought Thomas into the station, all the way to Jeff, in the other room, all the way back into the other room, all the way up to the guy saying, I want my ticket. We shot all of that in this direction. Then we go tighter and we would shoot coverage there. And then some specials that we had earmarked where we wanted pushes, or we wanted it really, you know, we needed to break up that eye level shot with something low or something higher. We would do that. And then we would turn. And the next night we'd come in and we'd be lit in that direction. And we'd shoot that direction. And we kept going around. And then we went, outside. We started in the grocery store while we dressed the set. And, you know, again, the experience of producing, and I know how to do a board. I knew how to do boards on 30-something when I started directing on 30-something. I got good at the board. A board is when, for those people, I know you know, but a board is the schedule. And what's scene? Scene 28, scene 11, scene 19, scene 14, scene 6. That might be day one.
Yeah.
And as a producer and director, you're moving those around for what would be fastest, most efficient, and also best for performance.
Yeah.
And we did that. That's how we shot it. And then while we were probably on day 6, 5, 6, we were right towards the end. I asked Jeff what he was doing when we were done. He said, I'm going to New York. I said, I'm going back to New York. And then I went, why don't we shoot the opening in New York?
There you go.
I said, why don't we give some juxtaposition so we're not only in we can sell the isolated Michigan world better to the audience out there if they see the glamour and glitz of New York and Broadway, since we refer to it. So we picked up a unit in New York. We had one funder. The budget was $300,000, and we shot for a day. We still had money in the budget. And we hired a AD and a second AD, and we hired Erica Slezak, and we shot. Jeff wrote the opening.
Wow.
And we shot that in one day in New York.
That's in front of the Twin Towers, and then also the scene with the agent, or not the scene with the agent?
The scene with the agent. We did all that in New York in a day.
That's amazing. Tim, I want to keep talking about this, but in terms of actors, we have actors who've submitted questions to you that would love for you. So let's fire off a couple of those, Brian, and we'll try to get back to guest artist if we can.
Oh, that's good.
Hi, my name is Maria Fafa Carr, and I'm with Casting Calls Portland, Oregon. And my question for Mr. Busfield is, as an actor, what has been the most challenging role of your career yet, and how did you prepare for that?
Can I suggest that it may have been in The Skateboard Kid, 1993?
Ricky, can I talk to you for a minute?
Yes.
Can we step outside
Yeah.
just for a second? I just want a second to talk to you for a second.
Right.
I think the most for obviously for two different reasons. I think the most challenging roles I've had are probably roles that I wasn't really that good in, or the writing wasn't there, and I couldn't figure out how to make it good. The less challenging roles are the ones where the writing is just spectacular. However, in 1990, I flown to New York to audition for A Few Good Men. They put me in a hotel, and when I read it, I knew how to say every line. I just knew how to say every line, but they wanted me like in 10 days to do a 3-hour stage Broadway play. And the effort that it took to mount to do that. And then I got sick during the middle of it. That was just the perspiration, the athleticness of getting that and the running it 5 times, a 3-hour play before I went out with a fever of 101. Wow. That was the most challenging because I couldn't not be ready. I turned down hosting Saturday Night Live to do it, and I ended up being a cameo that week. But I had to be ready on opening night. Tom Hulse was leaving, and that was it. And they didn't find me until sort of the last second. That was the most challenging. I think that I always had sort of a knack for Shakespeare, so I can't say the classic stuff bothered me. I really understood early on that I needed to go into the Oxford English Dictionary and be able to take all of Shakespeare's words, make them contemporary, and I needed to understand through the OED what each line meant in that time. And I learned that in college. I learned playing Caliban in college, which was a fun part and challenging, in that I had to challenge the director and the costume designer that Caliban was not a fish, that fish meant fool in 1511. It did not mean, or whenever it did not mean you were as a fish. He couldn't be a fish. He was a person that was raised on an island. They called him a fish because that was slang for idiot, fool, dumb guy. And so I learned then that you had to dig into the Oxford English Dictionary. So the classics didn't bother me.
Okay. Speaking of classics, you mentioned it earlier. You grew up, and Burt Lancaster was somebody that you looked up to as a movie star. Obviously, you were in one of the most iconic movies of all time, Field of Dreams. Behind me, you can see a lot of Star Wars stuff. George Lucas and actors from Star Wars always get asked, did you know you were working on something special when you were on set? I want to know from you, number one, I have a couple questions. On Field of Dreams, because it was about baseball, because of the people in the film, did you know when you were on that set that it was something special?
It was a great script. I didn't think anybody'd see it.
Really?
I couldn't hear Jamie. It was Jamie Horner's music.
Huh.
The script was great. There was just like A Few Good Men that I was just talking about, or the 30-something pilot. Every page was magic. Every page was, and the same with the West Wing pilot. I wasn't in it, but Aaron had me read it, and I was directing Sports Night for him at the time. Every page, you're turning the page, and it's magic. Just a perfect script, and everybody got on board, and you knew when the scenes were laying out, it was really hot. It was a very difficult shoot. It was the drought of '88. We had the only corn in the Midwest. Brian Frankish, the producer, insured the corn, and so we had corn. It was a really tough shoot. It was just every day was hot, but it created really beautiful elements that John Lindley and Phil shot. I knew it was a great script, and I'd passed on an offer and a lot of money to be in another movie, a baseball movie. And I said, no, I want to do this. There's something about this. So I had to wait until they went to Chicago, and they had another guy in Chicago that would have been cheaper than me, and because they wouldn't have had to put him up for as long and could have brought him back and forth. And I held out, and luckily I got to be a part of it, but it was Phil's script.
Wow. So they say, you don't want to meet your heroes, but you did meet Burt Lancaster. You had a scene with him.
I did. I met Burt, and he told me a lot of stories. He talked like this. I like you out there making faces. And I would imitate him.
Spot on.
I would imitate Burt behind Burt to James Earl Jones, and his belly would be shaking.
Yeah.
And he'd be going, knock it off. And Costner, even a few years ago, we did Bob Costas together. And
yes,
just Kevin Loves by Burt Lancaster. So
it was great meeting Burt, is what you were saying. He was a guy that you liked and could tease.
He's a Hall of Famer. You know, he's a Golden Era Hall of Famer. I got to work with Geraldine Fitzgerald. I got to work with Burt Lancaster. I got to work with Cliff Robertson. You know, those guys, those old school guys, those Golden Era studio guys, they come with such a workmanship that the process is immaculate. Yeah. And Burt was there in all of his wool every day. It was really a great experience. And I have, great stories. I had a great time with him. He said at one point, he said, yeah, the very first scene, he goes, yeah, son, take my coat. And I look and we're about to roll. I take his coat and I'm like, wardrobe. And he goes, yeah, son, you're in my eye line. And I said, no, Mr. Lancaster, I am your eye line. I play Mark in the movie. And no more jokes. And he was just messing with me. That's just what they did. Redford, Sneakers, the very first that we finished our rehearsal, our first scene with me and Redford and Sidney Poitier. And I'm looking at these guys and they say, the director goes, okay, cut on rehearsal. And Redford goes, are you going to do it that way? And he was just messing with me. And those guys, it's really that kind of environment. People
That's awesome.
That just makes you laugh and go, okay, I get it.
Tim, we have 6 more minutes with our TV audience. Are you good to go a few more minutes after, or you got to go?
Whatever you want. I'm not going anywhere.
Great. Brian, fire off another question from one of our Cast and Call America's actors.
Hi, my name is Stacey Nason, and I'm an actor on SAT Casting. And I have a couple questions. My first question is, what method of acting do you follow? My second question is, what steps do you take to prepare for an audition? And what steps do you take to prepare once you've gotten the role? Thank you.
Question, really, really great question. First of all, I would break it down in the order. I mean, there's the audition process, and then there is the rehearsal performance process. So I was trained in the method. I learned the Stanislavski system. That was what I had an expert in that in college, and he took me through Sonia Moore's book and Actor Prepares and broke those down. And I had Goofy in me. I always had the goofy children's theater guy, and I could do voices and characters, but I needed to tap a more real place, which is what I ended up getting to. So I learned through the method that helped balance a lot of my performing that I have in there. So it was great for me. The Stanislavski system is what I did then. It's since morphed into my own process. Sometimes I think I'd be better if I went back to that sometimes. For the audition process, really good question, because the audition process is a completely separate process than the rehearsal performance process. Yeah. You're forcing yourself to be at a point of performance much too early in the process. You're forcing yourself to jump into a performance level before you really need to, but you need to get the part. The best advice I can give is that if the writer is involved in the process, and the director, think about it, has read the text over and over again, they read it and they use the ellipses and the punctuation to help them with the music of what the writer wrote. They read it and they can hear it in their head. And if as an actor you decide, now I'm going to stray from what they wrote and I'm going to add a lot of pauses and create a bunch of stuff to make it unique, you're probably distancing yourself from getting the role. I find, and I'll tell one story, I auditioned for Terrence McNally, for an original Terrence McNally, Hall of Famer, one of the great playwrights of all time. And like in the theater, they give you 9, 12 pages to read. And I got this like a day or two before. And there was no way I could perform it. So what I did was, in this audition, is I picked the spots where I was going to look up and let them see, that close up, let them see my face. And the rest of the time I focused on the rhythm of the writer and what the writer had written. If there was not a period, I didn't stop. You can't play a comma necessarily. So it was really just, they think about it. The writer writes it, and before they show it to anybody, they rewrite it. And then before they show it to anybody, they might rewrite it again. Then they show it to someone who gives it back to them with some notes, and then they rewrite it again. And they clean it and clean it. And by the time they do that, in their head, it's very clear what that should sound like. Not that you have to do that exactly as they wrote, but if you want the part, I suggest that you stay as close as you can to the punctuation and the rhythm that the writer wrote their speeches in, because they'll say they get it. And when I'm casting, and I've cast a lot, I'll look over at the writer and they'll say, oh, I like this one, or people say, I like that one. And I'll generally say the one who said your words the most effortlessly is the one I want. The one who didn't feel they needed to add a lot of components to it, but that it just poured out of their mouth. They were connected to what you wrote, and they're gonna give us the best performance. I know you like the look of this person, but I don't know if I can get them to the text. I don't know if I can get them to what you wrote. And on the day, you're going to want that. So let's let makeup and hair create the look we want, but let's let the acting and the voice be somebody who's just got it, understands it. And then the last element of that, which you didn't ask me about, which I'm going to mention really quickly, the most important element is dealing with not getting the part. And it's the most overlooked, and it's never taught. But if you're not good at not getting cast, you're going to press at the audition, and you're never going to get to the rehearsal performance. The two processes you ask about. So if you go to audition, and don't ever tell your parents you're going to an audition. If you go to an audition and you get all pumped up and you really want it and you don't get it, then you got to call all the people you told you were going and tell them you didn't get it. Now you get the
Tim, I'm so sorry. I have to say goodbye to our TV audience. We're leaving. Thank you for joining us. Stay with us online on Facebook. Goodbye to our TV audience. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
All right, continue, sir.
The oppressed, basically you'll make that audition too important. And it can't be important. And when you think about the great actors, the movie stars that act all the time, Meryl Streep probably doesn't meet on movies. She certainly doesn't read for movies, but she acts the most. So she acts in, a movie or two a year. Nowadays, she probably maybe does one a year. But they're all she's in just about every scene.
Yeah.
When she goes, if she went and met for a movie, she doesn't care if she gets it. And I guarantee you she had that early. And the actor that doesn't care if they get the part, they end up getting the part because everybody else is so desperate to get the part that you're like, I don't know, I can't get past your nervousness and awkwardness to get to the performance. And second of all, I don't want to hang out with you. You're just crazy. And if you walk out of the room like, hi, did you like me? Did you love me? If you bring all that crap in, and then you want me to spend 16 weeks with you, that's not going to happen. If you wear a ball cap and if you're playing an ingenue and you're already pretty, You don't got to blow the hair out. You don't got to look. You don't got to wear anything revealing. Wear a ball cap. Read the lines, and don't care whether you get cast. You'll stand out.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you mentioned that, because the night before we started shooting The Talking Tree, I went to dinner with the main cast and people dispersed, and I'm left with the two co-leads who were playing a couple in the film. And they told me at dinner that they were right now in that moment and tomorrow and the next day worried about what their next role was going to be. You know, we're like, hey, we don't know after this film what we're going to. And I said, guys, please focus on this film. Don't worry about what's going to happen. I need your 100% attention. So even for actors, when they get a role, they're like, well, what's next after this? You've got to be 100% there. You have to be.
Yeah, you can't, you know, there comes a point when, and you really realize this when you're casting a lot, everybody agrees on the same 3 people for the role. You'll see 30 people for a part, and everybody in the room will agree it's down to the same 3. Mm-hmm. There's just parts that aren't meant for you. Yeah. It's just not your time. There's another part that you're going to get down the road, maybe, but it just happens that way. It doesn't matter. And even I've had Academy Award winners read for me, and they just didn't get it. So
yeah.
Well,
there you go. So I'm going to ask you a fun question I read in your bio. It seems like to me that for me, Star Wars, it might be James Bond for you. You saw James Bond 12 and a half times in the theater. What is the halftime?
It was actually 13 and a half.
Okay, I'm sorry. 13 and a half.
I'm sorry, I got to bust you on that, but you give me a hard time. No. I went to the theater dressed in black with my brother's Boy Scout backpack that I spray painted black.
I already love this story.
And I had Play-Doh in there because he does the Play-Doh stuff that blows them up. And I was reciting the lines before they happen. Now, starting at 5, I would go to the movies by myself. My mom would drop me. She worked at Michigan State. The campus theater was across the street. She'd give me money. I'd stay in there all day. And Mr. Rosenfeld, who owned the theater, I asked him for a job every day until I was 16, when he offered me a job just as I was going south and moving. But I was saying the lines before they happened. And people were saying, come on. And he came with the flashlight, but I knew I was dressed in black. Yeah. And I was under the rose, and I knew he knew it was me.
Yeah.
He would even say from the back, Tim, but I just was so in it.
Yeah.
And then finally, about halfway through, all of a sudden you hear, and the lights come up.
Not good.
And a freeze. And I hear my mom. And she says, Timmy. And I stand up, and I remember people were smiling because I was just totally dressed like Sean Connery. And I walked out and I left, and I think some of them applauded.
Yeah.
And before I got out of the lobby, the movie had started up again. That's people were cheering. So the 13 and a half was me getting yanked out by my mom for.
That's fun. So you talked about watching TV, and Burt Lancaster was kind of your first guy. So this is not exactly the same, but my first ever special movie premiere was Little Big League. I worked at a movie theater, and for whatever reason in Fremont, California, we got to have this special 2-week in advance premiere. We all got dressed. I remember I got a suit, the employees. So Little Big League looked like it was a really fun movie to be on. I'm curious, with your baseball background, were you also kind of a technical advisor? But if you want to talk about that film for a little bit, I absolutely love that film.
I was playing ball for the Sacramento Smokies at the time.
Okay.
And I'd had the Saskatchewan team in the Northern League had offered me $500 a month to pitch for them. I was winning ball games and striking out a lot of college kids. And so I was in pretty good shape. And Castle Rock, those guys that they did A Few Good Men, the movie, they knew that. And People Magazine had picked it up that I was playing at a high level of ball and was an actor. And I got that movie, and I got to tell you something. I couldn't be a technical advisor on that movie. I was the worst player in it. You had Ken Griffey Jr., you had Wally Joyner, you had A-Rod. I mean, not A-Rod. You had Rodriguez Pudge. Yeah. You had Randy Johnson, who I couldn't. And they liked my left-handed swing. I'm a right-handed hitter. I'm not a lefty,
Huh.
but I did a good left. I could imitate Will Clark of the San Francisco Giants, left-handed.
Sweet
So I,
swing.
I did my Will Clark imitation, and they it worked for us in the movie. And I was standing on top of the base. If I had seen Wally Joyner, I'm standing on the bag just so I will look like I'm not 5'1".
Yeah.
And I'm wearing 3 pair of underwear, so my thighs will look, somewhat thick.
All the tricks.
All great ball players. Great fun movie to make. We all had a great time. I got to be with the Minnesota Twins for a month before the game that we started. I had a locker between Kirby Puckett and Dave Winfield, and my oldest son Willie was there, and I was in the rotation with Kent Herbeck down at first, and I'd thrown batting practice to the California Angels and Salmon and D. Sarcina and I can't remember who else. Maybe it was Edmonds. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
They said I threw the best batting practice. Rod Carew offered me $25 a day to throw batting practice. They were heckling me on the sideline. So it was a great fun time. We all had a good fun time, and it was a good movie.
Great, Tim. Couple more questions. I know we're getting running late here, but a couple people have written me personally and said, Ricky, can you please ask Tim about the 30-something reunion show and the West Wing reunion show? Is he going to be a part of those?
No, I know the West Wing reunion show is a 3rd season episode I'm not in.
Okay.
I wasn't there. I was in season 1, and in the beginning of season 2, I did some, and then I was offered to produce Ed, which was the show that was on just before the West Wing. And I said, look, I got to go. If you guys are okay, I went to Tommy and Aaron and said, I want to become a better filmmaker, and I'll be a better filmmaker if I learn how to be a executive producer at a TV level. I can sell my own stuff. I'll be much better understanding the process. And Aaron was great. And then Aaron brought me back in year 4. He said, I need you. And the guys on Ed said, go. And I went back and forth. So I was in season 1, a bit of 2, season 4, chunk, 6 episodes. And then I was in the second to last episode. They tied off my character in season 7. But I will not be a part of the reunions. I'm not a part of the article that you'll see in Entertainment Weekly or whatever it is. I wasn't a series regular on the show. Leave that to Whitford and Janny and Rob and all those guys.
Got it. Okay. So one thing we haven't talked about will be the last thing we talk about. Right now we have a major audience from Sacramento. We have not talked about B Street Theater at all. So I don't know if you're a Sacramento guy. I know that 33 years ago you were, but if you just want to talk about B Street Theater, I got a lot of questions about that. How has it been able to survive 35 years? Why did you start it? If you just want to kind of close us out with your B Street Theater story, I'd be honored.
A children's theater. I wrote my first children's play at 15. Then I worked in a children's theater in Vermont for a couple of summers, summer stock. And I started a company in Tennessee when I was in college back in the 70s, and we went under after 50 performances, and it crushed me because the kids in Appalachia where I went to college, they had never seen anything like it. You knew how important it was what we were doing. Mm-hmm. And so when I got Trapper John MD, I said, I can start my children's theater now. And I gave an out of work actor $50. And I said, research Columbia, South Carolina and Sacramento, California. I need to be an hour and a half from LA or New York. And I need to be where I can afford to pay the actors and the rents are low. And there can't be any other professional full-time theater there. Because my theory was if you feed the guppies, if the kids grow up seeing it, then as adults, they'll become attached to it and they'll come back. Yeah. National Endowment for the Arts, the survey lately, the data proves that most people, 78% of all theater goers now saw a play before they were out of elementary school. Wow. And I just knew that. So I chose Sacramento. I brought my brother out. I'd already been booking shows. Buck and I wrote the first few. I directed the first and second and third shows of the first season. I was off doing Revenge of the Nerds 2 and the pilot of 30-something, and a guy named Joe Guerin directed the 4th play in that first season. And then we started rehearsing in LA at the Mark Taper Forum. opening there for Hollywood folks like Tom Hanks, and then we would move the show up and tour schools. 5 years later, in 91, we had a Christmas break from sneakers. Robert Redford gets a month off wherever he is in the month of December to ski, and used to. And I went up, and Buck had found the B Street Theater. And I said, we open Mass Appeal in a month. And I'd hired an actor out of East Tennessee State named Ed Claudio, who's now a Sacramento legend acting teacher. And Ed and I had done the play as a fundraiser for our college, and we opened Mass Appeal in 30 days. And the reason the theater stayed successful really is the effort we put early on into building an audience. And that we went every week. We didn't shut down.
Wow.
And we didn't shut down. And if I had to go into a play or write a check, whatever it was, we were going to stay open. And eventually you build audience to a certain point where you weed out the people that don't want to come back, and you can build a subscription. And it took us several years to do that. And the Sophia complex, that's all Buck. Buck came and said, we were at Cafe Bernardo, and he said, I want to show you something. And he walked next door, and he said, I think this is where we go with the next phase. And I had already had the drawings for the second stage at B Street, the building we were in. We'd already done that, and we hadn't built it yet, but we knew what that was. But that third phase, that big building, and I was leery of it, just because I didn't want to give up the intimacy of theater and become a proscenium house. And in 2001, when I started producing Ed, there was no way I could go do a movie and come back. I could go do a TV show for a little bit and come back. But a producing job is 9 months out of the year, 70 hours a week on a TV show. You can't do both. And that's when Buck took over, and we had a sizable enough audience, and that we had some guarantee. And then Buck just was brilliant from there on out and created the Sophia. And it makes me cry every time I walk in the space. And I'm so proud of Buck. And I think the fact that the audiences are attached to our players, that we have company in the beginning. Naturally, there was a sense of Hollywood. I'd go on Y92, Paul and Phil, and I'd get up at 5 a.m. and go on their show and try to give away tickets that night. And eventually we didn't need that. And we didn't need the celebrity factor. And Dave Perini and Kurt Johnson and Dana Brooke and the company that we had there became audiences became attached to them. And I think that was the key, is finding really strong actors that are never bad. And that really helped. And really just Buck. And now it's just an institution, runs like any other regional theaters, managing directors and everybody else. As far as the pandemic goes, I don't know. Nobody knows what's going to happen in the American theater or how safe people are going to be. The average audience in theater across the country, including Broadway, is 42 years old. The average age outside of New York is probably more like 52. The audiences are older. If it wasn't for all the kids and tourists that come to New York, that number is much higher. And that's our pandemic audience. And I don't know how safe people are going to be coming back to the theater, but fortunately there's music and a lot of spaces and online stuff. Please go to the Sophia. It worked. Feed the guppies, then let them grow on you. They'll become attached, and the community will become attached because you're taking care of the youth. And that really helped a lot.
That is great advice, sound advice. I love it. It's great wisdom. I learned a term on a film set when the director says, hey, that was our last shot. And then he's like, oh, wait, sorry, it's not. They call it JFK. You can Google it as to what those letters mean. But I JFK'd you, Tim, because we have one more question that I think you're really going to like. So I don't have any more, but we're going to go to this one last question for you.
Hi, my name is Emma Henderson. I'm an actor with Faith-Based Casting. My question is, how old were you when you started acting?
Thank you for asking me that question. You're so sweet. I was practicing the skills of an actor at 6 and 7. I was doing voices. I was doing characters. I was imitating movie stars. I was learning the theme songs to the TV shows. I walked differently. I would watch how people walked. I would watch how people talked. Those are the attributes. Those learning from that gave me the attributes to grow as an actor. And when I did my first play at 13 in junior high, and then 15, I adapted a play and did that. And then I did one other play in high school. Those were the 3 that I did. And then I really didn't start acting until I was 20 after that. But I was practicing the skills, which are really important. And during this pandemic, the best thing you can practice is the audition process. I really believe. So monologues and scenes, and I would not, given your age, be very cautious about people telling you how to say things. Do it maybe a little bit, but always trust your instincts and your heart on how it should be said, and you'll develop into a much better adult actor. It's very difficult for child actors to become adult actors often because we're so short with you in our process. We say, look up, look down, say it like this, say it like that. But we wouldn't talk to adult actors like that because we know to get the best performance out of them that we can't direct them that way. So we often take advantage of the younger actor and tell them how to do things. And in that little bit of lack of respect, we might limit them from being the better actor they could be. So if your mom is telling you how to say something, it's okay to say, Mom, I got this.
Yeah.
And fundamentals, when you go to an audition, Emma, just listen. Listen, connect, and react. You don't have to talk loud. Listen to what the other person's saying. It's not about how you're saying what you're saying. It's more about what you're saying and listening. Listen and talk. Listen and talk.
Tim, I have really enjoyed listening to you tonight. We went 75 minutes, which is the running time of your movie, guest artist. So we did it. Thank you so much, Tim. As an up-and-coming director, there was a lot here tonight that I can't wait to rewatch and listen to. We're honored to have had you tonight. So thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Thanks so much, Brian. Thank you for everybody for watching, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Ricky.
Yep.
Bye, Emma.